The Do This podcast is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network. In this insightful episode of the Do This podcast, Bob Stewart, Chad Hyams, and Joe Kazzoun discuss Remine, a powerful tool for realtors. Joe is the CEO of Remine and has over 2 decades of experience in the real estate business. Hear how the Remine platform leverages AI and data analytics to identify potential property sellers, making it indispensable for real estate professionals. They explore strategies like targeting non-owner occupied properties and leveraging customer data for optimal prospecting. Discover Remine's potential to revolutionize real estate business strategies. We hope you enjoy this episode of the Do This podcast, presented by Brivity.
Hey, Chad Hyams, Joe Kazzoun. Hello, gentlemen. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Bob Stewart.
So we are back. First Do This call of the year. And a little bit of we're throwing a little curveball here early in the year, Chad. We've got our friend Joe. And Joe, I don't know. Joe leads, let's just put it that way. I don't know what's on your business card, Joe. You maybe tell us here in a second. Joe leads Remine, which is a new company or newish company in the family here at Brivity, one of our partner companies. Joe, do me a favor. Introduce yourself really fast, and then I want to hear about Remine. I want you to give me the 30,000-foot view of what is Remine for anybody on the call that maybe isn't aware.
Sure. I'm Joe Kazzoun. I'm the CEO of Remine. Been in the real estate industry for more than a couple of decades, and we'll leave it at that. So I've been an agent, helped run brokerages, franchises, software companies. So, I've seen the industry from a number of angles.
Awesome.
So
okay.
Remine?
Yeah. So Joe's been around for a while. He's played all the jobs, and at all the companies that many of us, Joe, would recognize the names immediately, right?
Probably a few. Yeah. Probably
okay.
A few of those.
Remine. So talk to me. Oh, Chad's got a timeout.
Yeah. Look, it's a new piece of the Brivity world, but I'm sorry to say, it wasn't a name everybody knows. So I'll be the guy who says I'm the dummy in the room, right? To stop you two from getting into 20 minutes of conversation and people going, what the heck is Remine?
Okay.
Right? I never actually heard of the program before. Maybe it was being used somewhere and I didn't know it was. So Joe, give us the sales pitch for the company.
Yeah, so Remine's been around about 7 years. We have about 650,000 subscribers on the platform. So 40% of the realtors, if you will, in the country. It's a prospecting platform. It's a public record data platform. Depending on the version you have, you can access MLS data with it, all kinds of stuff, right? A little bit of the Swiss Army knife of real estate, but we're really trying to focus on the prospecting piece and the public record and property research piece the most.
Where did it come from? What was the idea? What was the impetus as the founders sat down and said, you know what, there's a hole in the market here. Why?
The founders were realtors. They were real estate agents. They had a couple of teams actually, and they started getting really into data. And they started building these crazy spreadsheets, and then they started building these little applications to support the data. And it was really about finding the best prospects, right? Who is likely to want to list their house? Or their property? Who's going to want to buy a property? And it evolved from there, and they got a bunch of investment money and invested tens of millions of dollars into Remine. They hired data scientists, and Remine was probably one of the first platforms in real estate to really use AI to look at all these massive data sets. Mortgage data, public record data, all kinds of stuff to help us determine, consumer data, whether people want to buy or sell a home. Predictive analytics, right? And we call it propensity data today, but we've been doing it for a long time.
Okay, I'm going to say the name. I'm going to say the name of another company, and I'm not promoting them in any way. I'm just attempting to understand and explain. There was a company called Smart Zip. Are you guys basically the smarter version of someone like them who are doing the predictive analysis, saying these are the people most likely going to sell their home in the next 6 months? You guys have just taken it to the next level, and your program with the AI, with the data you guys had, is helping us identify those people in advance.
Yes, I'm not
Okay.
familiar with that company, but yes, you've described it pretty
So
well.
Joe, I am familiar with them. And Chad, what I would say is Remine is that on steroids, and
Right.
it gives the agents the control. Because what that thing used to do is basically just say, you have the zip code 98028.
Right.
Here's the 148 people in that zip code we think that are gonna market to them. Joe, do you mind?
Remine, yeah, Remine's much more flexible than that. And by the way,
because you guys have chloropeth overlays, right?
We do have that.
That's what makes
we're
you
not
guys
going to
way
explain
better.
what that is today, but you just know that it's smart stuff, right? And so the other thing that I haven't even mentioned is we have consumer data, right? We have phone numbers and email addresses. Not the only way you're going to prospect, calling and emailing, but that's pretty nice to have. And that's a little bit of the gold. And part of our magic is the property information and the propensity information doesn't all live together in some magic data set that you can just buy, right? We have to put that all together, and we need to know that Bob Stewart lives at 123 Main Street and is the owner of that property, and is the owner, not just the renter of that property. Or if he lives there and he's a renter, we need to know that he's the renter, not the owner. And putting that all together is part of our magic. And doing
And then
that
through
well.
other data that you guys are getting access to, you're saying, hey, Bob's on these websites, he's watching these programs, he's ordered this in the mail or off social media, so we know he's doing this.
Yeah, we don't have that activity stuff, but we do. You can, if you're a Brivity user, for example, and you have Remine, you can get activity data. And I'm not talking about consumer, did this person go out and buy a lawnmower yesterday so he can mow his lawn finally and stage his house, right? Um, it's more like I'm going to look at the Remine data, and we should probably get into this in a minute. Like, what is this data we're talking about? How do we know someone's interested in selling their house? But if you take Remine and you hit the easy button, I call it the sell score, I call it the easy button, and you get 200 people that we think are likely to sell their house. You export that and put it into Brivity, and now those people are opening up market reports. They're performing an action. You put those two together and you have great information. You better call those people. You better email those people. You better go knock on their doors, because they're probably interested, very likely to be interested in wanting to list their home.
So you mentioned the data. I'm going to, Chad, we don't ever do this on this call, but we're going to do it today. I'm going to pull this up. I have Remine pulled up right now, Joe. And Joe will easily spot that this is not the MLS version. And so there's even a more powerful version of Remine that includes your MLS data if your MLS has it. And there's a number of MLSs across the United States that do. But this is a version that anybody could get their hands on today. And
are we going to find out if Bob is ready to sell?
Likely to move? Well, I went to my old stomping grounds, Chad. I'm up here in Blaine, Washington, which you didn't live too far from. I think you lived out here in Birch Bay, if I'm not mistaken, Chad.
Yeah, I was right there.
So you were out here somewhere near Birch Bay State Park, I know.
Yep.
And these are the layers that Joe was talking about earlier. All of the layers, right, Joe? And I don't want to steal any of your thunder here. Your favorite one is the sell score. And so you'll notice, you guys, right now in this whole kind of, this is the northwest corner of Whatcom County, Washington, right up here on the border with Canada. There's about 15,000 homes. And so this tiny little piece of the map has 15, Joe, you can just imagine, millions of houses across the United States. We've got this kind of rich data for. And as I pull up any given property, we can tell who lives here, how long they've lived here. what their taxes are. Right now, this one has a medium sell score. We can see their loan balance and the net equity they have in their house, which is around 30%. We can see that they're owner occupied. And if we wanted, we could go look for all the non-owner occupied people that live in Birch Bay. Maybe there's some investment people that are getting ready to unload all the houses they own.
So I can just stalk the people who bought my house and just see, what they owe on the house probably and all the other.
Sure.
Okay.
What's their mortgage
You can
payment?
get a scary amount of information. When we do demos, people look at this and they're like, oh my gosh, look at all the information. When I searched myself for the first time, I could go all the way back to an apartment I rented, with a girlfriend after college, a few decades ago.
So you can search by, and forgive me, I haven't played with the tool. No one said, here, Chad, here's a version, play with it. You can search by people too. So like if I want to search Bob Stewart because, if I could find him, I can actually search by people and what's going on in their history.
Yes, and I'll take a little detour here. We'll get back to the sell score and what Bob's doing, but I may want to look at non-owner occupied, right? Absentee owners. I want to look at people that own the properties. I want to look at maybe cash buyers. And now I have a list of people that are buying multiple properties with cash. I can search those people in the system and say, hey, this guy owns 2 properties. Hey, this woman owns 15 properties. I bet she's going to buy more. I better reach out to her, right?
That's such a good one. So you're saying I'm looking for cash buyers on non-owner occupieds. That's really good.
There you go. I mean, there's so much you can do with it. Let's say I'm going to go knock on doors in a neighborhood. I want to know if I'm the person that opens the door. I can know their name already. I can know whether they're a renter, whether they own the property, right? I can know how long they've been in the property. I can get a lot of information so I can be smarter when I start a conversation, when I call them, when I knock on their door, if I send them an email.
Okay.
Coach, if I send them an inked card, which we're going to be integrating very soon.
Amazing. Coach moment here. I'm jumping in, right? Folks, remember this. Joe is going to geek you out on this. Bob loves data like this. Bob could sit in front of this thing for hours and keep playing and searching. And folks, you will too. Here's where I get to be on these calls. These are the things I get to remind you of. Go knock on the door. Go make the call. Don't sit there for another hour doing research only to find out they're not home when you knock on the door. Don't sit there and spend all day preparing all this data that you're not going to do anything with. This program, this class, this webinar that Bob and I have been doing now for a while, it's do this, not look up this and play with this. This is do this. Joe is just giving you weapons to go know which doors to knock. He's knowing which people to reach out to. You still have to do something though, folks. Let's make sure that's clear while we're having this conversation.
That's so true, Chad. And I want to go back to something you said, which is, yes, there are people who would have the propensity to sit here and geek out on the data, but I want to go back to the sell score. So if we clear all of these filters out and go back to where Bob started with 15,000 homes, right? Properties, there's 9,000. Just go to sell score and choose high sell score. And if you look in the upper right where it says 15,000, we're down to 700 people. Right?
What an elimination,
because
right?
It's being picky. Why sit there and play with the data for 5 hours? Just export the list to your CRM, export it to Brivity, right? See how many contacts are in there and start calling them, right? Start emailing them. As you said, Chad, just go do something, right?
Joe, I have a really great story on this. One of my partners down in Pasadena, California, Brian Parsons, he came up to me at the last event we were at, and he's like, "Hey, like, you got any good Remine stories yet?" And I'm like, "I got a few. What do you got?" And he's like, "I got a good one." And I'm like, "What are you doing?" He said, I have a buyer right now, and we can't find a house for this guy. And I bet every single person who's listening right now or listens to this later has a buyer they can't find a house for. they've looked at everything on the market. They don't like any of it. They're just waiting for that next house. And so he said, here's what I did, Bob. This guy was looking in an area of Pasadena, Joe. Let's call it, this neighborhood right here, right? So he's in there and he's like, he wants to live out here in Simiamu, Chad.
Yep.
And he said, but he wanted a house that this guy was a handy guy. So he wanted a house that needed a little bit of love and sweat equity. There was a chance for some sweat equity there. So they decided that it'd probably be a good idea to look at houses that have been owned by the same person for longer than 20 years. Because a lot of times, Joe, when somebody lives in a house for a long time, the maintenance starts to pile up on them, right? So they went after that group first. And then he said, you know what? From here, I need an older house. But from here, I just want to find the people that are of a high propensity to sell. And so, again, we're going to get it down to this. It's about 5% of the market in here. In this case, there's 13. Now, in his example, he said I had 71 houses. There were 71 homes in this neighborhood of Pasadena, that has 10,000 homes in it or whatever. And they wanted to buy one. So then he took those 71 and he used Inked. And not everybody has access to Inked yet. But Inked is our little handwritten, or little robot arms that write handwritten postcards. And so he just sent this person, and in fact, he used a placeholder. So it was, hi, Aaron, I'm interested. I have a client, Chad and Nina there. Nina. I have a client, Chad and Nita. They're interested in buying your house at 18511 71st Ave in Pasadena. If you're thinking about selling or would consider an offer, give me a call. He just put his phone number on there. Here's what he told me. He said, he got 3 phone calls of people that said, yeah, bring your clients over. They could totally make an offer on our house right now. He said, by the way, none of those 3 houses did his client love enough to make an offer on, but 2 of those 3 turned into listing appointments where we were right. They were looking to sell soon. And 1 postcard from him got a phone call that got him in the door, again, with real clients. Don't get me wrong on that, right? But they didn't want it, and he was skilled enough to be able to turn those into listing appointments. One of those he double-ended. He was like really excited. He did $8 million of sales out of 1 Remine drawdown, and then, sending a dedicated postcard to those people. So
that's amazing.
And Bob, Remine is now, it's in Brivity, right?
Well, so no,
is it being transitioned in?
It will be at some point here in the very near future. There'll be some real obvious connections. The first connection we've actually inside of.
Well, Philip wants to know where he goes to get it, because you're sitting here and he's drooling.
Go to remine.com. If Philip heads to remine.com, there's a little sign in or sign up right here. He can request a demo if he wants the team to take him through and show Philip everything that it does. And they're a lot better than I'm doing right here. I promise those folks that would take you through a demo. But yeah, he can just sign up right here. And in short order, we would have him in here and he'd be able to go and play around with those data filters, run exports, do all the fun things that we were looking at right here in the last little bit. Joe, what are some of your favorite targeted types of things that you see Remine users going out and doing? I gave one example of high sales score, lived in it for a long time.
Yeah, no, that's a great one, right? Finding people, finding likely sellers for buyers, right? Learning about the property, contacting the buyers, the sales score you talked about. I talked about, you could search absentee owner, non-owner occupied. You can prospect the owners. Hey, are you tired of being a landlord? Right? Because they're not there. And guess what? You know who lives there. You can prospect the renters for tired of being a renter. So it's a little bit of a 2-for-1, right?
Oh, the non-owner occupied. Because and I've been really digging into these data sets because Chad mentioned I'm a nerd at this stuff. Like on those non-owner occupieds, we get the address of where the owner lives, and we obviously have the address of that rental property they own.
Yes.
So like you said, we can target the renter.
So you can mail the owner and then mail the renter.
Right, and then get the renter ready for a buy because their owner is about to sell the house from underneath them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the secret one? So Bob said, what are the popular ones? Joe, if you're thrown back into the world of real estate, you're starting from scratch. I don't even care what town you're in. And someone's saying to you, okay, maybe it'll be a popular one. because I can see your head already. But you're starting over in real estate today. You don't have the history, the foundation. Someone says to you, though, here, I'm going to give you Remine as a gift. What's the search you're running immediately?
You know what? The secret is what you said, Chad. The secret is just go do it. And I could give you 10 different examples. We've already talked about cash buyers, owner occupied, high sell score, buy sell score. I mean, we have so many. There's distressed, right? We have distressed property in there as well. The secret is to go do something, right? To contact these people. I mentioned one of the ones I love. If you're using Brivity, get the high sell score people into Brivity because you can export the data, import it into Brivity. We'll be automating that this year. And then you can go contact those people.
You'd put them on listing alert
and
a market report,
put
right,
them,
Bob?
and put them on market. If they're looking at market reports, they're doing something that shows that they're interested and we have the data on them. That combination is magic. And I've talked to place teams who are doing that. And I think the comment from one of them from the Rock Group was the open list, meaning they opened a market report, they opened a market report again, they contacted them, and these people listed, right? Just
so Bob, taking the two tools and knowing what I keep hearing from you, what I'm hearing from Joe, would you say to everybody the first thing to do would be go into your area that you work, search for people with a high sales score, export them from Remine, put them into Brivity, and put them on market reports immediately?
Yeah, that'd be one of the first things I'd do for sure. There's literally, because when you look at the filters and you really start to dig into these things, you're limited by your imagination. So Chad, you're like asking like, what are the good ones? Look, like how imaginative are you? I love this one. Here's another one I love. Let me get rid of the distressed deals, but we can see in that little segment of Semiamu there's 5 people right now that are at some stage of distress, Liz penned or notice of default or whatever they've gotten. I love the VA loan buyer because I think those guys have assumable mortgages. And right now in an environment where there's 7% mortgages, but somebody out there sitting in a house that they can assume at 3.5%, that doesn't stink. And so here's the 256 people out in Semiamu and that North Birch Bay that have a VA loan.
And Bob, you can filter by mortgage rate too.
Yeah. Where's that at? Mortgage
above,
rate.
Just
right
above there.
Yeah.
So you can do it on mortgage rate.
Well, maybe I want to see
people
them
with lower rates.
Yeah, they got the
don't miss lower than that. Yeah,
they got the good ones. They got the real good ones, right? 177. So there they are. If I had I don't know, Joe, I shouldn't say this because I don't know how the money all flows. But if I had a lender, I might ask them to pay for this thing, and then they could use it to go find the people that have 8% mortgage rates so they can try to get them into a 6% or whatever we're at these days.
And by the way, mortgage brokers use this product too.
Yeah,
right?
that's a great way right there. You just said it, Bob, right? I could find someone with an 8%, knowing I could refi them at a 6%. Boom, it just told me who to reach out to. If you're a mortgage broker listening to us right now, talk about how you could use this.
Yeah, and for all of you, you know your areas too, right? I may want to go look at single family residences. I want to look at people that have been in their house from 5 to 10 years. I assume if they've been there for 15 or longer, maybe they're going to stay there forever.
Holy crap. You can get all the way down to the detail. I just see Bob pulling this up right now, right? So now when your client says, I want a 4-car garage house, we need at least 3 bedrooms in the house, you can now just start running this and then overlay the sales score, and the 3 houses to go knock on the door for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chad, I should have included this in my Brian Parsons down in Pasadena story because his clients weren't just looking for any house. And so he did have a layer of they want a 4-bedroom. It needs to be 2,500 square feet. It's got to have a 2-car garage. So he absolutely had that kind of the house details layer on here, not just information about the mortgage or how long they've lived there, or that kind of thing. So yeah, we can bedrooms and bathrooms and all sorts of fun stuff that we can play around with. I have another one this one, and Joe, you made a reference to this earlier, but I want to double stamp on this one because I thought it was brilliant the way the lady was thinking about this, and it kind of opened my mind. She said, you know what I've been doing? is I've been going in to the area I live. And so right now let's just say Blaine was her market, right? And she said, I've been looking for all those people, and Joe mentioned it earlier, who don't live there, right? So let's apply. So of these 15,000 homes, about 4,600 of them are non-owner occupied. That's now she took an export of this whole list. She's like, I wanted to see every non-owner occupied. And Joe, you mentioned this earlier. And then once she had that big data set, right, she put them in order by the owner's name. Because what she wanted to figure out is, where do I have that same owner who owns 6 properties here in my market? And she wasn't doing it to try to call them and say, hey, are you thinking about selling any of these? She wanted to call them and say, hey, I'm a local agent. I come across really great deals from time to time. And I happen to know that you own 6 rental properties here in the Birch Bay area. Should I come across one as I'm out sitting down at people's kitchen tables? Would it be okay if I reached out to you and gave you one of the first opportunities to be able to step in and buy that 7th investment property? So she was trying to, a lot of us think about it like, oh, let's go try to get them to sell with us. But she's like, what if I can build a stable of investors who I know I could go to get to buy any property that I come across that's a great deal?
Yeah. Hey, I want to give everybody one tip. When you're using Remine, and probably there's people on here that already that are subscribers, they're on place teams, or they've got it through their MLS. Make sure you're getting fresh data. You can get 10,000 records and put it in a cart and export it, but don't do that unless you're really planning to contact them, especially if you're using cell score, mortgage data, things like that. What I'd rather see you do is get 300 and actually take action and contact them. If you take 1,000 out and you contact 300, by the time you get to the rest of them, they may be stale. We update our data every month, right? We're updating mortgage data, consumer data, public record data. You want to make sure you're not just, hey, I can get all this data out of here right now. Only get the data out that you're actually going to use.
Yeah.
Come back again the next month and get that other 206 that you need.
Yeah, get those 206 today, which are the high sell score out of those 1,500 or whatever.
Okay, last simple question for me as we're getting to the end of it. How often, and Drew just asked the same question, basically, how often does this change? Like, can I just come in on the first of the month and say, I'm going to run this and it's good for a month? Or is this like every day the AI is just saying, nope, these people just went way up on a sales score?
Yeah, no, it's typically everything is refreshed by around the 2nd or 3rd of the month. Right?
So if I came on the 5th of the month every month, I can then, what my plan is for the month, and then go away.
Yeah,
come back on the 5th next
everything.
Month.
Yes. So the sell score we run just after the 1st of the month. Other data is getting refreshed all the time, right? We get a new data set for consumer from one vendor, mortgage from another, public record data from another. So we're constantly updating it. But if it's something like sell score, that it's a combination of all that data, then we run that on a regular monthly basis, right?
Okay, coach speaking again, pick that day. Right? The 4th through the 7th, somewhere in there, pick that day and say, this is my day, and schedule some time in Remine to say, I'm going to go through, I'm going to sort, I'm going to filter. Now I have my plan for the month. I know the doors I want to knock. I know the cards I want to send. I know who I want to call. And don't sit there every day going, did it change? Did it change? Did it change? Because I don't know how many times I've watched a realtor sit in front of the MLS for 3 hours waiting for a listing to magically show up. Remine will show you which house to go knock on the door before the listing shows up.
Joe Kazzoun, welcome to 2026, my friend. We're excited for all of the cool pathways that we'll build between Brivity and Remine this year. But thanks for coming and kind of educating us a little bit, educating the audience. Actually, thanks for educating Chad. He needs it the most.
Absolutely, 100%.
Thank you so much for having me. And
Bob, now I know what a chloropleth overlay is too.
Wait, what did you learn, Joe?
I love some of the stuff you were doing, Bob. Some of the searches you were doing, some of the use cases. I had not heard the story about this guy getting $8 million worth of transactions.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love
Love
And
it.
now we have new words in our vocabulary as well.
Chloroplast, is that what it was?
Chloropleth overlays. We now know what they are. We're not
Awesome.
telling you, audience. Go
Yeah,
Google.
Google. Joe Kazzoun, thank you, sir. Have an
Thank
awesome
you.
day. Great week.
Thank you,
Chad,
guys.
I'll see you
You
next
too.
week. Everybody, bye-bye.
Bye.